Hello and welcome to this video on the first of the videos on the supplementary verses in the course based on Thomas Egenes' Introduction to Sanskrit. These are supplementary verses not given in the Thomas Egenes textbook, but provided in the online course given by the Australian National University entitled Joy of Sanskrit, also based on the Thomas Egenes book, and in each of the lessons they give a supplementary verse, which I thought was so useful that I would reproduce them in the videos that I'm making for this course. All of these verses have grammar that is beyond what you will have studied by any given lesson in Thomas Egenes, but it's all fairly simple grammar, and there's no harm, of course, in stretching yourselves a bit and in getting some real live Sanskrit. These are verses. These aren't made-up verses for this course. These will all be verses that are written by ancient Sanskrit speakers for other ancient Sanskrit speakers, so hopefully they will be simple, but they're all the real thing. Now, I have done an analysis sheet, which I will bring up for you now on the shared screen. Let me just get rid of this one. So please bear with me while I try and get this right. Here we go. This is the analysis that I've done of the verse. Those of you who may have seen the text on the ANU course, online course, will have seen that there's considerably less detail than this. Here I give a very detailed analysis of the vocabulary and grammar of the verse, with the parsing. That's what I'm highlighting here, what part of speech each word is, or rather, I should say the parsing analysis of each word, and then the sentence breakdown here, so broken down word by word, and with detailed notes below where further explanation is called for. What I'll do then, I will recite the verse in Sanskrit slowly twice, and then we'll proceed to the analysis of it. So, Abhyaso nahi tyaktavyo, abhyaso hi parambalam, abhyase visham vidya, ajirne bhojanam visham. And again, abhyaso nahi tyaktavyo, abhyaso hi parambalam, anabhyase visham vidya, ajirne bhojanam visham. I got a horrible feeling on the first recitation I might have started the second line by saying abhyase. If I did, it should of course be anabhyase. I'll read it again. Second line, anabhyase visham vidya ajirne bhojanam visham. So the sentence of the verb, sorry, the subject of the sentence is abhyaso, that's of the first line, first half line, abhyaso nahi tyaktavyo. This is the first pada, the first half line, abhyaso nahi tyaktavyo, constitutes an entire grammatical sentence in Sanskrit. It omits the verb to be, where you often say A is B, practice is not to be neglected. To make a grammatical sentence in English, we usually have to put in the B or a variant of is not to be abandoned. It can be grammatically correctly left out in Sanskrit, and often is. And in fact, this one verse consists of 4 separate sentences, all of which the verb to be is understood but is omitted. So the first, abhyaso nahi tyaktavyo, practice not neglectable, tyaktavya. So let me go now to share my screen on the iPad. There we are. So abhyaso, the root of this word abhyasa is as, meaning to throw. By the way, do not confuse it with the similar root with a long as, meaning to sit. So with this long, sorry, this is meant to be a not equals. The as with the long a, of course, we see that in the asanas of yoga. So the asid asana is one of the ways of forming a verbal noun at ana. So we get asana, which is literally a sitting, but is the word that we use for a yoga posture, a yoga asana, by Santi yogasana. This as is different, although when you make a verbal noun, it actually extends itself to as. So abhyasa. So as means to throw. With the verbal prefix abhi, abhi means on or on top of. So abhi as means literally to throw on, and that it means to add to or to do something repeatedly, piling it one on top of the other. Abhyas means top throwing or on throwing, so adding to or repeating to. And it's by that we get the meaning practice. You're doing repeatedly, adding. You do it and you add another repetition of it. So throwing on. And it makes its verbal noun with abhi asa, and by santi, that's by the merging of words together, it becomes abhyasa. So the I followed by an a becomes a ya. So because that's why it becomes abhyasa, literally on throwing, adding to, and therefore practice. Abhyasa. The root tyaj means to leave or to abandon. Now, we will see frequently as we go along how a verbal root that ends in a j will often make its verbal noun with a g, with the lengthening of the vowel and a g. And we see the same, for example, in the root yuj, which makes its verbal noun, our familiar word, yoga, yoking or joining. Tyaj makes the verbal noun tyaga, of which the basic meaning is literally leaving, abandoning. But tyaga often has a meaning in the spiritual practice, as in renunciation. You are leaving, you are abandoning something. Tyaga. And for the Pali students, it is the word chaga, the ty followed by a vowel often becomes a ch in Pali. So chaga. Chaga is the word meaning renunciation, or literally abandonment. Now, we have a future passive participle here, to be done, requiring to be done, frequently ending in tavya. In Pali, equivalent is tabba. So we have tyaj, to abandon, plus tavya, a j followed by the suffix t, that has to become a k, so that's why it becomes tyaktavya. Tyaktavya, meaning to be abandoned, something that must be abandoned, is tyaktavyam in the neuter singular form. Where you have the negative, it often has the negative of this future passive participle form, or sometimes called the gerundive. Where you have this future passive participle expressed in the negative, it often has the meaning, it's like a negative imperative, do not abandon, or it must not be abandoned, is not to be neglected. So, abhyaso na tyaktavyaha. Practice is not to be abandoned, so na tyaktavya. And this particle he, it's an emphatic particle. It can sometimes be left untranslated. And you very often find it where you get these negative injunctions, you must not do so and so, such and such must not be done. You very frequently find nahi appearing together. So, abhyaso nahi tyaktavya. Abhyasa, practice, is not to be abandoned. Now, you'll see that when I said abhyaso nahi tyaktavya on its own, I ended that word with aha, even though in this verse you're going to see abhyaso nahi tyaktavyo, abhyaso hi parambalam. That is because it would end as a masculine singular, like that, either in isolation or at the end of a word group or at the end of a sentence. I pronounced it in isolation there as the end of a word group. Abhyaso nahi tyaktavyo, abhyaso nahi tyaktavya on its own. It becomes tyaktavyo in this verse for sandhi reasons that will become apparent later, we'll deal with later, because there are words following it. So on its own, abhyaso nahi tyaktavya, we would say on its own. So practice is not to be tyaktavya, is not abandonable, is not to be abandoned. And carrying on, abhyaso hi parambalam. Abhyaso hi parambalam. Practice is the supreme strength, is the highest strength. Again, we see this emphatic particle he, abhyaso hi parambalam. Not just practice is the highest strength, but it is practice that is the highest strength. And again, with the link verb, what we call the copula, to be omitted, and grammatically correctly omitted here. It's unnecessary in Sanskrit and Pali. Balam, a neuter noun, meaning strength, and param, parambalam, means the highest strength, the utmost strength. Para is actually cognated with the English word far, as in distance, a far distance, but is often used or mostly I would say used as an adjective in the sense of, the further, utmost, highest. And the abhyasa, sorry, screen's going funny, abhyasa, in the stem form abhyasa, it's a masculine noun, so abhyasa in the nominative singular, but by sandhi this final becomes o if followed by a voiced consonant. That's why abhyasa nahi becomes abhyaso nahi tyaktavyo, and the same in the second pada, that's the second half of that verse, not abhyasa hi, but abhyaso hi parambalam, And the same in the first pada, the first half line of the second line, sanabhyase visham vidya. So abhyasohi param balam, practice is the greatest strength. I've made a note that whereas the line itself, I'm talking about the second half of the first line, reads abhyasohi param balam, I would almost have expected it to read abhyasehi param balam, putting it in the locative, abhyasehi, meaning in practice. It's a very frequent construction. In order to reach the highest strength, you must practice. It's often expressed in Sanskrit as in practice is the highest strength. In diligence is success, or you reach success by diligence, which would be something like viryehi siddhi. Virya, viryam in its nominative form, diligence, effort. So viryehi siddhi, the success is in virya. So by applying virya, you reach success. So abhyasehi parambalam, in practice is the highest strength. It could even be a textual corruption, because to my mind it would be more normal and natural to put this in the locative, not the nominative. So written here, abhyasohi parambalam, could well have been abhyasehi parambalam. Now to the second line, we have anabhyase. It's the negating prefix a. It's the same in Greek, amoral and so on, which becomes an, same as it does in Greek, before a vowel. So we don't say aerobic, but anaerobic. It's the same in Sanskrit, a and before a vowel, an, as a negating prefix. So anabhyase, in non-practice, or the absence of practice, but we can crudely translate as non-practice. Anabhyase, in non-practice. The word order here is visham vidya, putting it into an English word order. Anabhyase vidya visham. In non-practice, vidya, knowledge, and understand the verb is visham, poison. What it's saying here is that if you stuff your head with knowledge, but don't put it into practice, then that knowledge is no more than poison for you. And then the physical example is given in the next pada, that's the next half line. Ajirne bhojanam visham. In indigestion, food, bhojanam, visham, is poison. Now these words, visham is a neuter noun, stem form visha, and its nominative form visham. Now note here the order. In the first pada of the second line, anabhyase visham vidya, its knowledge, vidya, is visham, is poison. Whereas in the second pada, the word order is the same as we'd use in English. Ajirne, in indigestion, bhojanam visham, food is poison. Since these are equational sentences, A is B, they're all in the nominative, how can you tell which is which? For in the first pada, how are you meant to tell whether it's saying poison is knowledge or knowledge is poison? Well, the answer is, on the purely linguistic analysis, simply looking at the shape and form of the words themselves, you can't tell. So the only way of telling here is the pure logic of what is being said. So he's not going to be saying that poison is knowledge. No, he's saying in the absence of practice, vidya is poison. You have to, vidya is visham, knowledge is poison. And you can only tell that simply because of the sense, otherwise it simply wouldn't make sense. So anabhyase visham vidya, in non-practice, in the absence of practice, vidya, knowledge, is visham, is poison. Ajirne bhojanam visham. Ajirne, in indigestion. It's from the root, it's a long the original meaning, or the base meaning of jr is decomposing or decaying. It's the natural decay of anything organic. And it makes the verbal noun jara, the same incidentally in Pali and in Sanskrit, jara. And we have the well-known phrase, part of the definition of dukkha, or dukkha in Sanskrit, is jara marana. Jara marana. Often translated as old age and death. Yes, often translated as old age and death. Jara is more specifically decay. Jara, incidentally, is cognate with the Greek, I'll write in Roman letters, geron meaning an old man, and geraios meaning old. This is in Greek. As in geriatric, for example. Geriatric is medical practice for old people. And that is reflected in jara, which actually doesn't specifically mean old. It specifically means decay. And marana, go down a little rabbit hole, is from the root mri, meaning to die, cognate with an immortal, and so on, mors in Latin. Marana is not actually death. Marana is more the process of dying. Death is mrityu, that's death as opposed to life, the state of being death. Dying is more marana. Sorry, knock that up. Dying, the actual process of dying, is marana. So what's being spoken of in jara marana is decay or decrepitude and dying, not just old age and death. Decrepitude and dying, as in the process of dying. So back to ajirna. The past participle of jr, it lengthens makes a long e followed by r, jirna. And jirna, even modern Hindu, they use the same, jirna meaning something is decayed or rotten. So jirna, the primary meaning is decomposed or decayed, but then in a positive sense, jirna means digested, as in a healthy body digests the food properly, and the food then is jirna, as a good thing. And if food is undigested, then with our negating prefix, it is ajirna. So undigested food would be ajirnam bhojanam, bad thing. There are several, you can't always do it, but there are numerous past participles in Sanskrit. This is a past participle, passive past participle. There are numerous passive past participles in Sanskrit that can be used as nouns. And, this is one of them. So, ajirnam, as a neuter noun, means indigestion. So not undigested, though if used as an adjective, that's what it would mean, as in ajirnam bhojanam, undigested food. So ajirnam here in the sense of indigestion, and in its locative case, ajirne means in indigestion. So in indigestion, bhojanam visham, food is poison. So ajirne means in a case of indigestion, if you've got indigestion. So ajirne, bhojanam visham, bhojanam, food, and visham, poison. Now, I've mentioned that in the first pada of this line, the words are in the non-English order, visham vidya, poison knowledge, meaning knowledge is poison. As I said, you just have to rely on context and logic and sense to see which is which. And in the second pada is the same word order as we'd have in English. Ajirne bhojanam visham. In indigestion, food is visham, poison. Right, I will read this line to you again slowly twice, and to hear it nicely chanted, you can go to the link that you will have in the supplementary material at the ANU website. Abhyaso nahi tyaktavyo, abhyaso hi parambalam, anabhyase visham vidya, ajirne bhojanam visham. I'll read it once more. Abhyaso nahi tyaktavyo, abhyaso hi parambalam, anabhyase visham vidya, ajirne bhojanam visham. That concludes this video.